Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, C. John Zerwick.
Why are we doing spooks? It's January spooks.
Because it's a Halloween store in January. Andrew Garfield hates Mondays. Hi, everybody. Devin Decker here. I guess
we do beat poetry now.
I'm doing spooks because we were doing spooks before we started recording. That's it. That's how the sausage got made this week. We had invented a character named Hannibal Lender. And, you know, he calls up Clarice like the phone calls you get, the robocalls, and he's like, "Hello, Clarice. I'd like to talk to you about your car's extended warranty."
Out there right now. Nothing better than explaining a joke after the fact.
I mean, we never told the joke on the show, Siege, and we're not explaining it after the fact. We're explaining why I was in spooky voice mode. But it's because I was messing around as Hannibal Lecter.
Oh my God. You know, we have done some unlistenable episodes of this show, like actually unlistenable episodes of this show, and that might be the worst thing I think we've ever put to tape.
I'd like to know what actually unlistenable episodes of this show you think we've done.
Do you not remember when we did a commentary on an entire episode of our own show?
Oh, you mean 4 years ago, roughly? Because this is the season 5 finale, baby.
Yeah.
Wow, look at how organic that felt, because it was. Oh man, I'm in that mode. I'm in that punchy mode where I'm going to explain all the jokes, Siegen, and I apologize to you and you, the listener, in advance. But it's exciting. This is an exciting episode of the Say Report because we've been doing this for 5 years. This marks 5 official years of the Say Report, and that's nuts.
Yeah.
And then, like, one step beyond that, this is the 300th piece of media related to the Say Report. So, like, no longer including the ASCU, which has been spun off from this show, when you include all of our regular episodes, very special episodes, and mini reviews, this is episode 300. It's not episode 300 proper. That won't be full till, like, November of this year. But, yeah, this is a big one. And I'm freaking out a little bit. So I'm doing Hannibal Lender. I guess we do 301. My dream, my wish, my goal with any podcast that I start is to do 366 episodes so that you can listen to an episode a day if it happens to be leap year.
Oh man, folks, this is it. This is the show. We're here to talk today about anything and everything. It's the start of a new year. We're in a really weird time in terms of like releases of anything pop culture media related. Not that things are not coming out, but it's definitely weird times. I'm still doing stuff like getting into things from last year, like trying to cover my bases, make sure I got all of 2021 covered before I move on. Oh, I'm not ready for 2022 yet.
I get that. And usually you going through to my birthday, that's a nice thing. Like January 4th, it's like 3 extra days to mess around and catch up. But no, I do kind of still feel like I'm in catch-up mode. And the real reason behind that, we're not going to shy away from it because we haven't yet before, right? Screw the algorithm, YouTube. Especially because YouTube, I don't think that's where you're coming to listen to the show. If you are one of our YouTube listeners, thank you, welcome. Say hey to us on Twitter at The Say Report. But, like, we're going to talk about COVID. And honestly, I didn't expect this to also be, like, the 3rd year of COVID with the show.
Yeah. I man, there's no words to describe the ways that the last 3 years have kind of affected all of us, and that is not an overstatement. There's literally gonna be new lexicon like in the world going forward from the last 3 years, and so it's been cool to be able to kind of record our experience within it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's been nice. I haven't hated it. You know, these are the tapes that they're going to use to teach future generations. I swear to God, if that were the case, I think I've talked about it before, but there's this episode of SNL where Natalie Portman was the host. Mm-hmm. I could not tell you who the musical act was. And it is an episode of SNL that I think is probably the worst episode of SNL ever created. I think it's just trash, like top to bottom, which is really sad because I'm a fan of Natalie Portman. I know that you have personal reasons for not being a fan of Natalie's. I don't know if we've brought that to the show.
Man, what are you talking about? No, isn't that the one that Lazy Sunday comes from? Like, there's like it's straight up SNL history from that episode.
No, I don't. Lazy Sunday is not from this one. It's a year before that.
Okay.
Because Lazy Sunday comes. It's a weird episode. Like someday we're gonna do a very special episode on this episode of Saturday Night Live, right? In fact, there's a trailer. That's not a trailer. It's gonna be a time capsule episode, if anything, because season 6, we already know what all our very special episodes are gonna be. And I don't know if we're going to tease them this episode, or you can look forward to that announcement next week. How about next week? Next week we'll share what we're doing with season 6 for you. But this episode of SNL is just so bad, top to bottom. Like, it's personal. That's a personal opinion. But I feel like none of the sketches really work. And then in a couple of the sketches, they don't just break. They like downright crumble. Like, it's not just one person who's not in character anymore. It's everybody in the scene. But it's not the funny haha, like we're laughing with ourselves. It's just the fact that the complete illusion of this skit is gone. And we still have 2 pages left of dialogue. And I've always wondered what it would be like if that episode of SNL were the only thing of our civilization to survive. How it would tell alien species or future civilizations what we were in like the early 2000s.
Well, the sad part about doing the podcast and hoping that that's the thing that survives is there's no visual element, right? So we have to like describe the pork pie hats we wear, like that are like required by law to wear when you do a podcast, right?
Exactly. Wait, is it really? It's illegal that law passed?
Well, yeah, like a long time ago, which is why we've never talked about it before. But yeah, like the idea that like from day one we've been wearing them. They've come and they've done their checks. You know, they poke their head in the window while we record, but they see this isn't pirate radio here, folks. All right,
Sejan, I have something I have to reveal to you. I have not been wearing a pork pie hat any time I've ever recorded a podcast.
Oh no, Devin. No, don't put that here on the recording.
Well, no. That's gonna go out, right? Like I didn't understand. How have we not gotten in trouble before this? I mean, I have a pork pie hat on a mannequin head that is next to where I record. You think during the checks they thought that was me?
We all have our beheaded mannequins, which we keep all of our separate hats all lined up. Especially if you're a podcaster, you definitely just have body parts just lined up everywhere amongst your room. I can't believe that you haven't been remembering to wear it, and you've been willing to admit that on the air.
Well, it seems so like non-conducive to podcasting because I have headphones on and it's difficult to wear a hat and headphones. I mean, I did it with that Kangol hat when I was going through my Malcolm and Eddie phase, right? I wore a backwards Kangol hat because I always thought that I was the Eddie to your Malcolm in a way that... I gotta
be entirely honest, I didn't realize you grew out of that phase, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, I still wear the Kangol hat. I just don't wear it while recording anymore because it made the headphones fit weird. So you're telling me you have on a pork pie hat and headphones every time that we record?
As is stated by law, yes.
Oh my God. We should probably stop talking about this, right? This is a huge admission of guilt going out on digital tape from me. Like, I'm scared now. Do I stop the recording? Do we abandon this 9 minutes and 23 seconds of content to do something else? We're not going to. I don't care. I fly in the face of it. Siege might not be doing pirate radio, but arr, matey, I'm sailing the cyber seas.
Oh, man.
Right, you wanted to make this one unlistenable, right? That was the goal?
Well, I mean, at least to a younger generation at this point. I'm pretty sure we've pissed off anyone under the age of 20.
Imagine, did you ever listen to the fireside chats in history class?
Oh, yeah, man. You had to sit down and listen to, like, the weird radio, like, the nation would sit around and listen to the president talk to them as if they were all 6 years old.
Yes. So there's the new goal, right? That
And that was
366
considered the height of presidential like caliber.
366 episodes was goal number 1, but goal number 2 is that someday, somewhere, somehow, the Say Report is used as a teaching aid. And it can't be by one of us as the professors. This is what I do. I'm putting out good vibes into the world because I felt a little bit guilty saying that we shortened the quarantine period so that America could get a high score in new cases. And then the day after that episode released, we crossed the 1 million cases in a day threshold. I felt guilty.
Yeah, like we kind of wished it into existence, which we've been known to do on this show from
Right.
time to time.
So let's wish positive things into existence, such as the Say Report is a teaching aid. That's good. I also could see us used in like an English class because of the lexicon of words, the vocab, the Say vocab that we've come up with. I've really hooked my mom onto movie twins because come to find out, Don't Look Up has a movie twin coming out.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's called Moonfall. I don't know if you've heard about this movie.
I think I like offhandedly have heard the name of it. I didn't realize it was like a comedy.
So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I don't even know. It would just be a movie twin because it is essentially the same story. Like Armageddon and Deep Impact, they're both comets are coming to the Earth movies and the way that society reacts to it. With Armageddon being we're going to send drillers into space, and Deep Impact being like the political representation of that.
Yeah.
Moonfall is the same as Don't Look Up, except it's the moon that's literally going to be falling to Earth, and a team of 3 people, a NASA scientist, a fellow astronaut that they had both gone up into space together, and now he's no longer working for NASA, but she is. So her former astronaut partner and a conspiracy theorist are the only 3 people who believe that the moon is falling, and they decide that they're going to do something about it.
Ooh, man. Oh, man.
Like I saw Moonfall and I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. The moon's falling. It's going to kind of be like Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, or probably not that, but that's the thought. And the moon is a lot closer than the asteroid, comet, whatever from Don't Look Up. Like if the moon were falling into our atmosphere, it'd be like pretty easy to notice.
I mean, the tides alone, right?
Right, exactly.
Like the way that the oceans and the waters on this planet would react to the moon moving, even just a couple of thousand miles closer would like never mind running into us.
Yeah. So, but the fact that it's another one where like only 3 people believe it and they're the only ones who can do something about it really got my movie twin senses tingling. And then
I can definitely see it.
Yeah.
I see it for sure.
Yeah, and then and that's the thing. So I called it a movie twin, and then my mother was like, "What's a movie twin?" And I'm like, like Deep Impact and Armageddon, or Volcano and Dante's Peak. And there's just so many of them, and we've talked about them so much on the show. And she's like, "Oh, is that something you guys made up?" And I'm like, "Kinda." Like we talk about it on the Say Report. It's like Sejan's Gambit or Christmas Sweater. We have our own vocab.
Yeah, I will be entirely honest. I've definitely heard movie twins outside of our own nonsense. It is a commonly talked about phenomena, at least, and I know
I feel like we titled it. I feel like we titled it. Even if we didn't, I'm taking credit for it. Come get me, people who coin phrases.
When we have such classics as Sejan's Gambit that are definitely our own, there's no reason for us to go out of our way to take credit for ones that we don't need to.
That's a good point. He makes a good point, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we're here at the Say Report.
Also, have we gotten into the whole Sejan's Gambit of 2022 yet, or are we saving that for season 6?
We're saving that for season 6 because it's a big part of our very special episode schedule, which I can assure you is already created, and will break one promise, but not the way you think.
Oh man, yeah. It's been a wild 5 years, and I'm excited for another 5 more. I'm just, the coming year and the plans that we have. It's the it's the first time I feel like we've prepared for a COVID year. You know what I mean? And this is true throughout my entire life. It's like every other plans that I've made over the last couple of New Years have all been involving once the lockdown ends, or once we can all go out again, or once we can all go to restaurants again. This is what we'll do. This is what we'll do. This year it was entirely like, okay, we know we're going to get stuck inside for a year. We're not even going to pretend this time. So what are we going to do instead, like with that? And so a lot of our like New Year's resolutions and plans and our promises here on the Say Report are all definitely going to be much more geared towards say, hey, what can we do in the home attitude.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very, very truthful point. I mean, think about it again. Last year, we thought movies were going to come back. Mm-hmm. We thought, like, well, what we really talked about last year was how you still haven't seen Wonder Woman 84. And have you still not seen Wonder Woman 84?
Did we talk about how I had watched 20 minutes of it at that point and
then just stopped?
Okay, yeah, nope, that's all I've seen. Yep.
I hate you. I still hate you for not having sat through all of Wonder Woman 1984. I'm so jealous that you get to say that. And I'm jealous that you didn't watch it a second time to take notes. You are living your best life, and I'm sitting here like, I can't believe I watched this movie twice.
Well, and it's really interesting because throughout this year we have talked about the whole Disney / Marvel like kind of what did we call it, terrorist marketing of just like if you're not here in the theater watching this today, then you might as well kiss being any part of the friend group goodbye, like type shit. Like
yeah.
Like there's that kind of thing going on. So to be able to say that about Wonder Woman 84, and this literally be the first time since last year when we talked about this movie that it's even been questioned of me. It's kind of nice.
I mean, I think I definitely asked you when we watched 4 hours of Justice League. Were you were able to do 4 hours of Justice League but not 2 hours of Wonder Woman 84? To which you're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I still hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
But just to show the flip side of the coin, I have yet to get out to Spider-Man and don't know if I will ever go and see it in the theater. It's probably going to have to be a wait till it's home experience for me. And I've not been able to stop explaining this to people. And like, nobody's been rude about it. I don't want to imply that people have been like egging me to like do something dangerous or anything out here. People totally understand. But that question has been asked of me by basically every single person I've seen since that movie came out. Whereas again, I will point out Wonder Woman 84, the only person that has asked me any questions about it has been you, and both times it has been in the matter of research for this show.
That's true. That is a very good point. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the reason I bring up Wonder Woman 84 is because now that we're in 2022, it is the end of HBO doing same day and date premieres on HBO Max.
They announced that at a time in which they were pretty convinced theaters were going to be coming back too. So we'll see where they stand in, I will say 4 weeks. I will give them 4 weeks before we hear some change in that announcement.
I think that Spider-Man No Way Home and the fact that it's like a record-breaking release has really said that movie theaters are here.
But you got to remember that was
is going to have to happen though. Like
Omicron is a drastic thing that has to happen. People seem to forget that Omicron has really only been a thing for about 2 weeks.
Omicron was a thing the week that Spider-Man No Way Home released.
Exactly.
It has been a thing since the movie's been out.
Yeah, but they weren't going to stop the movie coming out that Friday when Omicron was literally
But my point is that Omicron has existed
4 weeks,
the same amount of time as Spider-Man No Way Home. Right. But my point is, they've existed along the same time, and Spider-Man No Way Home has still gone gangbusters.
I give them 4 weeks.
Okay, I will take that 4 weeks. It's always nice to have something to look forward to, which is why I'm gonna little soup sauna stuff, right? Something coming in season 6 is Chair Watch 2022. And that is because after working from home for 8 months last year, and then recording here and editing here and everything that I do at my desk, my chair is donezo. My chair is gone. So for Christmas, I was gifted a new chair. And this new chair is going to take 6 to 12 weeks to arrive. The order was placed on Friday, so we are at the first episode of Chair Watch 2022. This chair is a beast. I got one of the 24/7 like 911 operator dispatch chairs that I don't know if are you familiar with these chairs at all?
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that you can like live in, right?
Yeah, like it's a nutso chair. But it's just like, if I'm gonna buy a chair, I'm gonna go crazy. Especially with like, it's a gift, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna get like a $70 gaming chair off of Amazon. I'm actually gonna put the work in and find the best possible chair for everything it is that I do creatively. And buddy, this is it. But
are there speakers in it? Is there a cup holder? Like what are the bells and whistles?
No. The bells and whistles are, I hate that this is a bell and a whistle, but it honestly is a bell and whistle for me. It has removable like chair linings.
Okay, that can be washed and
that
cleaned.
can be taken off and washed and cleaned, and like, it's all sorts of hyper futuristic how it does. The level of customization on this chair is insane. It can be comfortable for someone who is 4 feet tall up to 7'10". So like, I think I'll be comfortable in it. The base has 7 spokes.
I feel like this is your first step towards becoming a Doctor Who villain.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that we're in agreement on
Barry
this. Barry
Allen and you are gonna go head to head at some point in the next 5 years, and it all started here with this chair.
Wait, am I fighting Doctor Who or the Flash? I'm very confused.
I mean, have you watched CW's The Flash? It's basically Doctor Who.
Oh, that's good to know. I thought that was Legends of Tomorrow.
That also, but yeah, Legends of Tomorrow doesn't exist anymore, right?
I think
it's still going.
I think it's still going. I'm pretty sure they did. I don't think this was its final season. Supergirl ended, and I think Legends of Tomorrow is the next one that's going to end. I don't know. I don't watch anything except for Supergirl. Except for Batwoman and Superman and Lois.
I can't believe you're still watching Superman and Lois.
Superman
There's an
Lois
update from 2000.
Well, it hasn't come back yet, so I haven't begun watching season 2. But I'm gonna watch season 2 of Superman and Lois. I don't know. It's crazy. It's just entertainment. I'm mad at the CW right now. We are in a fight.
Oh?
Walker, right? Big fan of Walker, right? I think the Say Report supports Walker. But really, the reason why I supported that show is Mickey Ramirez, the secret main character of the show.
Right.
She has left the show.
Oh.
I've been keeping this under my hat because I've been trying to deal with the emotions of it. But the December 9th season, mid-season finale called Douglas Fir, she left. She left the show. She went undercover at the end of the first season. She was undercover for 1 whole month. And then she ended up running across her ex-fiance. And then he died because she couldn't keep him. He totally did a Hans Gruber, but she couldn't save him. And so she was all sorts of messed up from that. And it was kicking off an arc to have the actress leave the show.
So she's wanted to leave like for a while? Like, any word of it being like any problems behind the scenes or anything like that?
No, by all accounts, she loved working on the show. Like, and everybody was super kind and supportive to her. I can't find anything as to why, like, she wants to leave. Maybe it's just, I mean, the CW, as we know from stories from like Ruby Rose and stuff like that, is apparently one of the most intensive production schedules of any like network.
Oh, like detrimentally so. Yes. Yeah.
So I just feel like it's that situation where like, I didn't realize when I signed on for Walker. And also Walker is one of those shows that like was originally a 13 episode first season, and then it did so well that it ballooned to 22. And like the first season ended in August of this year, and then season 2 premiered in October.
I mean, and it could just be like, just God knows how they've been scheduling around COVID and how long they've been working on it. She literally could have spent the last 2 years of her life on the show and just been like, I'm done. I was like, I'm done. I've worked on this TV show for 2 years. I'm going to go do something else now. Like that also happens.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And especially with everything else that's going on, it just bums me out because so much was done for her character and so much was filtered through her character that like, I don't know what the show becomes now.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a way for them to write in a young upstart, you know, like that they
so
can.
I guess
they can
the only problem that I would
surrogate.
have with that is like the big thing behind her character was that she was the first like female and Latin Texas Ranger. So it's gonna feel like that little bit weird if they just replace her with another Mickey Ramirez.
Right.
Where like, I'm the second Latin female Texas Ranger. Cool. That's cool. Like,
I mean, yeah, but there's much more creative ways that you could do just that. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't even have to be a cop for the character to exist within the show. You know what I mean? Like, I have no doubt in my mind that somebody at CW is going to figure out what audiences are willing to watch it.
Honestly, I think my fear, right, my deepest fear about it is that people were watching that show for Jared Padalecki, right? It kind of fills the void left behind from Supernatural, and it's decades-long spam.
What do you think? They're going to go out and get Jensen Ackles?
No. Jensen Ackles, like, by all accounts, Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki are, like, not on good tems.
Well, considering how often Jared Padalecki was getting into, like, fucking bar fights.
Yeah, exactly. Jensen Ackles, when he's like, yeah, I'll do a prequel to Supernatural. No, don't call Jared. I feel like he's probably not coming back, but I do feel that if you were watching that show for Jared Padalecki, you weren't getting a lot of Jared when you watched the show. He was sort of like there, but the driving force behind so much of the story elements were either his family, like his kids, or Mickey Ramirez. Like, I couldn't tell you anything that happened to Walker in the first season that he had to deal with. So it might be one of those things where, like, it's diluting what people actually want to watch this show for.
Yeah, but they know people are there for that, and so they're just going to give them more of that. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, CW is very good at tweaking, altering, and fixing, for lack of a better term, shows for their audiences. I mean, like look at the first season of Arrow and how it's basically like the OC, just with like a guy in a super suit, right? And then all of a sudden, like, it's slowly shifted more and more into the whole like weird, we're gonna dip into third-rate DC characters just to have some fun. And then slowly it was like, oh, that actually is kind of the perfect use for this avenue, right? Let's have Brother Blood show up for, like, all right.
Yeah, that works.
Right. And I mean, but that's, you know, the differences between season 1 and season 2 of that show, and then eventually what that show becomes even later, like, is a perfect example of exactly this. Like, the show is evolving, much like CW shows often do.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, all shows do in a way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, shows have to evolve if they're going to stay alive. We watched the first episode of Mom last week, because I would do that whole series again, like, right now. But that first episode, from how that show ended, is so different that you would never think that they were the same show.
Well, we talked about how the whole, like, last, season?
The whole last season doesn't have Christy in it. Yeah.
Right, that whole last season is just about, like, the older actresses in that show. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, from the first season to the second season, Violet just disappears. Like, it's crazy how that show evolved. And that's actually kind of a good show to look at the evolution of how a show survives and maintains itself. So it's not crazy. It's not completely off the reservation for that to happen. But I don't know. I'm just sad about Walker because I really fell in love with this character and was impressed that that's how they did the storytelling. But then also look at something like Republic of Sarah, which from the first episode to the second episode completely changed what that show was supposed to be. And we see that often from, like, pilot to first episode, where we see those big changes. But the way that the show changed from we're going to be fighting to be a country to, yeah, you guys are just a country, go with God. Like, oh, okay. I really thought this was going to be fighting for the independence of your new sovereign land. Not at the end of the second episode, good luck running a country. I liked that show too. I've done a lot more CW in the lockdown. That's something that I will admit.
I mean, I think that, again, that just speaks to the CW science, right?
Yeah, that's true.
They know what they're doing to give somebody something to do while they sit on a couch at home. It is inoffensive enough that you don't demand it be canceled, but it's also not the most superb thing out there that you're not surprised when they're not at the award shows. Some of them get to the award shows too.
Yeah, no, it's I just every time I watch the CW, I think about that quote about the Clerks animated series from Kevin Smith, because he was originally supposed to be on UPN or the WB, like one of those two. And the numbers that they got for the first episode, had it been on UPN and the WB, he would have owned the network. But because it was on ABC, no, we're canceling you. We'll give you one more episode. The one that we think is the strongest of the 6. Oh, cool. So you're not giving me any chance, though. Sorry, just very exciting stuff. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a very good mood. And now that we're halfway into the episode, I'd like to talk about something weird and strange that I experienced last Sunday.
Is this why we started with the spooks?
No, I mean, maybe. I mean, it was spooky and ooky, and it freaked me out. But it also led me to a thesis statement that Dale Decker said was the truest statement I've ever made in my life. And that is that iCarly is Sex in the City for tweenagers.
Yeah.
Soak it in.
I guess it's not that huge of a revelation for me. Sex in the City is essentially 4 women standing around being progressive and talking about like women issues at a time when that wasn't a huge thing on TV. And yeah, iCarly definitely fits that mold as well.
It's more the fact that I mean, really, Sex in the City sort of feels like a graduation course from something like Seinfeld, except we're going to be the female voice of it. I mean, Candace Bushnell definitely wrote the book, and it's based on the book, but the way that every episode is Carrie writing her little article based on the thing that she's going through that week, and then that carries through into iCarly to try to give that to the next generation.
Here's the thing about that statement that's giving me pause. Sex in the City didn't do anything too revolutionary in like its like style. Like the idea like let's talk about key components of Sex in the City. Like it opens and ends with her writing like an article to herself, essentially. Yes, that's been done a billion times. That is the setup for like a whole, like going back to like Clarissa Explains It All and all that sort of shit. And then on top of that, like, oh, we're gonna be 4 women in a bar and we're gonna be talking about like sexy girl things. Like that was kind of their hook. But as far as the 4 friends sitting in a bar talking about life, like you're right, like we've seen that before, Seinfeld and basically Friends, like all of that shit. Like, so again, they didn't break the mold in making Sex in the City so much as they just reshaped it for female bodies, which is, I think, kind of the point. Like, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. I think that was the whole idea with something like a Sex in the City, was to do something for women that had not yet been done, and that was to take all of these tropey genre like
Cliches,
feelings and cliches, but like put them on display for women instead. And yeah, so I guess like iCarly, iCarly also fits that mold for tweens for sure. Yeah,
it was just so weird, and what brought me to it is, first of all, I watched an episode of And Just Like That, the follow-up series to Sex in the City, and we're going to talk about what happened in that episode of And Just Like That, because I still struggle to like come to terms with the fact that I watched it on the TV and that it created enough of a spark on Twitter to get me to go watch this episode of television. But watching And Just Like That, the show where Sam didn't come back because of differences with her co-workers and the creative people on the show, made me think of another show that came back in 2021, iCarly, where Sam didn't come back. So it weirdly put these two things that I thought were not the same at all side by side in my mind.
So you mean just on literal details, they're the same show?
No. I mean, like, that's a literal detail, but it made me put them both under the microscope at the same time. And then I noticed that parts of the cellular makeup of the two shows were very similar. For example, Carly Shay is, for lack of a better term, the woman whose name I can't remember, who's played by Sarah Jessica Parker. What is her freaking name?
Jessica? I don't know.
Miranda, Charlotte, Sam, and Carrie Bradshaw. So Carrie Bradshaw and Carly Shay are the same basic character. Like, down to how they're built as characters and everything, right? Miranda, who was played by Cynthia Nixon, and her brother Spencer are the same basic character model, where they're the responsible one, but they want to be able to have fun. But whenever they do have fun, it disrupts the life of everyone else around them. Then we get to Charlotte. Charlotte, played by, I can't remember the actress's name there. Charlotte is Freddie Benson from Carly. She's bubbly, she's happy, she's always kind of got a good mood. She's bringing in like the new modern stuff for this group of people to deal with. And it's also like she's sort of insecure, right? But her friends make her go forward with all of these things. And then you get to Sam, be it Kim Cattrall or Jeanette McCurdy, and they're like the wild one who's up for anything. And it was really weird, because then I got to thinking that each week in Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw is writing an article about what's going on, and every week in iCarly, Carly Shay is putting together a web episode about what's going on in their life. And they just all started to fall into place for me, Sejan.
Did you suddenly start to realize that every television show is exactly the same, and that this is what a lot of people complain about?
No, I didn't go further than that. You could have the same
thing about all of this with How I Met Your Mother.
But How I Met Your Mother isn't a four-hander. How I Met Your Mother is very much a five-hander. But you're not wrong. You could do it.
The same thing with New Girl. You could say the same thing with like that is the thing that they did with Sex and the City, is they went out and they picked those specific tropes of those characters that sit around, like Friends, like Seinfeld, like these character types, these archetypes have existed in television forever.
They've since right. Commedia dell'arte. Let's just go back to Italy for lack of a better origin point, right? Stock standard characters have existed since the 1500s, maybe earlier.
Right, but like this idea that we're gonna get these personality types together and see what happens is how you make a modern like sitcom, like in the last like 50 years, right? And like so, it's just. It's surprising to me that you're because we talk about these exact tropes all the time.
All the time! I know, but it was so weird to be able to, like, one-hop connect iCarly to Sex and the City.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a stronger connection between these two than, say, like, a Liv and Maddie or something to Sex and the City. But, like, the idea that the wild one is going to be there, that's going to shake things up and all that, like, yep, that's, I mean, you're talking about Screech. You're talking about, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I suppose you're right. The weirdest thing about it, though, is the replacement character in each of them is someone with ethnic diversity, which is not completely crazy, because that makes sense with 2022 and everything like that. But it's just one of those situations where, like, we got rid of the Sam and we brought in an ethnic friend, and it's just like, okay, cool. So that feels a little pandery. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird. It's the weirdest thing.
Is it pandery, or is it looking at a show? And this is more at Sex and the City than iCarly. I'm not gonna like, but is it looking at a show like Sex and the City that has frequently been noted for having a very myopic view of womanhood for a show that was progressive in its way of presenting female bodies on screen? It was sure kind of presenting just one type of that body.
What a wonderful transition you've given me to what happened. And just like that made me watch an episode.
Yeah.
And that is, so Cynthia Nixon's Miranda character, she's an alcoholic now. Like, that's just straight up her character. She's unhappy in her marriage and her life, so she's turned to alcohol, which is relatable, right? That's a relatable thing. Carrie Bradshaw, now instead of writing her little articles every week, is now a podcaster, which is admittedly relatable because we're doing a podcast right now. But because she's a podcaster, she has a new boss who's played by Sarah Ramirez. And Sarah Ramirez, who is a she identifies as female, is playing Che, who identifies as non-binary. And Miranda has gone out with Che a couple of times to acts with Carrie, and she's been attracted to Che. And in this latest episode, Carrie Bradshaw had to have hip surgery because she was having difficulty walking up and down the stairs, and she thought it was just old lady pains, but it turns out that she had a congenital birth defect that meant that her like left leg was jointed higher up into her hip than her right, so that had to be repaired. I don't know why they went to such length, Sejin, to explain why she would need hip surgery, but they did.
I can actually, as somebody that knows a few women in their lives that have frequent hip pain, one of the most underdiagnosed things for women is pain. Like, they will go to a doctor and say it hurts, and doctors will say, like, take two and call me in the morning. Like, that's that is so, like, the idea that they were able to go so deep is actually kind of interesting.
Well, I don't think they went deep enough. I think that's the issue. If she had gone to a doctor at some other point and it just been diagnosed as whatever, and then Shay says, no, you should see my guy, he's a specialist, and then they find the problem, like, then you're at least promoting the find a second opinion issue of it.
Yeah.
And you put that all in one episode. Like, that's not something you should do as a series arc. It should maybe start out with her at the doctor's office saying, every time I climb the stairs, I have this pain and I feel that I have to lie down. Oh, that's just because of your advanced age, right? And it's brushed off. But then another woman says, well, maybe you should see a specialist for that type of pain because it could be something else. And then you're actually, like right now, the Say Report has done more to highlight maybe get a second opinion from a specialist than And Just Like That did. And if that, because what you just said, definitely a good goal, right? But it doesn't seem like what they did. It just seemed like they needed a reason to have Carrie Bradshaw laid up in bed so that the incendiary scene I'm about to share with you could happen. So she had hip surgery.
I'm going to put this on the table before you even say it. I personally am not too sure why it's considered an incendiary scene.
I don't either. It's just
right. You're using the right words for the situation, but not the words that represent us.
Right? Yeah. Not Siege and I mean, it was one of those things that I watched and I'm just like, well, good for Miranda. Like, good for Miranda right now. But the internet did not agree with my good for Miranda's. The internet was very, oh my God, about it. And what it was, so she had the hip surgery and it went off fine, but for the first 2 to 3 weeks, she was bedbound. She could not leave bed, so she kind of needed constant supervision and attention from her friends in order to survive in the world. Because, like, even though they're rich, they're not get-a-living nurse rich.
Right.
Though, in some episodes, they probably would have been get-a-living nurse rich. Is weird, the floating upper class status of the Sex and the City characters. So Miranda had agreed to stay with Carrie for the day. It was her day on the schedule, and Shay came over to give, Carrie a bottle of tequila and see how she's doing. And when Carrie was asleep, Miranda and Shay started doing shots, which led to them, having sex in the kitchen. Maybe not like full-on lesbian sex, but like definitely third base. Shay fingered Miranda. I just said fingered on the Say Report. I never thought I'd say that.
It's important for the story, actually.
Yeah. And while Miranda was getting fingered, it woke up Carrie, who was sleeping in the other room, and Carrie had to go to the bathroom, but Miranda was very distracted from the mutual masturbation that was going on. And Carrie tried to go to the bathroom in an empty Diet Snapple bottle and ended up pissing the bed, which led to the tweet I saw that got me to watch this. I remember that face when you're getting fingered in the kitchen and your friend pisses the bed. And it was Cynthia Nixon with like really bad bedhead. And it got me to watch the show. And I gotta tell you, I didn't hate And Just Like That. There are some other storylines going on that I'm kind of invested in. But that big moment being the incendiary moment that like caught fire and everybody was talking about it for like the 12-hour news cycle on Twitter was very strange.
It's very hard to not point to the fact that, of course, it had to be a scene about female pleasure. That was like seemed to be the thing that brought everybody like together to question. I don't know, man.
I mean, but like,
It's just so weird to me. If anything, all this moment does is prove that this is the right moment for this show to be around. Anybody out there that was like, I can't believe they're going back to Sex in the City, like, clearly there's still conversations that need to be had, guys. So
yeah, that's but also think about the messaging that could happen to it. A woman puts her own pleasure first, and look at how it affects those around her. Right, because that was also things that I said, right? Like, she should have been taking care of Carrie, not getting her rocks off in the kitchen. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. No, she can think about herself maybe every once in a while. Her friend was asleep. And I don't know. The show's a mess. The show is a mess. One of the plot lines in the episode was Cynthia Nixon's character, Miranda. I don't know why I keep swapping between the two. Miranda got packages from Amazon, and one of them was how to quit drinking book. And she assumed that Charlotte had ordered it for her off of Amazon. And like, as a passive aggressive, you have a drinking problem thing. And then the episode ended with her, like, going to her orders and seeing that while she was drunk, she had, like, drunk ordered a how to quit drinking book. And it was weird. Like, it was one of those moments where I'm just like, I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel right now. Like, it's gotten that bad. I understand that you're trying to tell me that it's gotten that bad for her, that she's drunk ordering how to stop books, but it also just felt so tonally disconnected from real life that it left me feeling like kind of flabbergasted.
Yeah. Again, the show, and I don't know if it's right to keep lumping it in with Sex in the City or not, but its predecessor was frequently dinged, especially as time has gone on, with the idea that for a show that sold itself as being this open and all listening, conversation for these new things in the world, right? Like, consistently had these problems of shutting down conversations, of overcomplicating certain issues, of like there's all of this stuff that you're talking about is par for the course for what happened with Sex in the City and the ways in which we now view that show. It's a hard show to go back to and talk about in any meaningful way if anybody in the conversation is not willing to be like on board. You know what I mean? So if you're talking to anybody that's already got an issue with the show just off the bat, there's no saving this conversation because the show does you no favors, essentially. I'm very happy it exists in the world. I don't know if it's anything that I'm ever going to fully consume, but you better believe that I'm going to pay attention anytime it gets brought up in conversation.
I mean, the storyline that really does interest me, and I will admit it's probably going to get me to go back and watch maybe a couple more episodes, is that Charlotte's daughter is now identifying as non-binary and has changed her name from Rose to Rock. And it's very interesting to see that not from the person who made that decision's point of view, but from like a parent and coming to terms with it. And like, there were some moments with Charlotte where like downright fucking hated the character for how she was treating her child and the situation. But then also, like, looking back on everything I know from the character, because I watched Sex in the City, right? It was kind of hard to avoid. I mean, if you had HBO for Sopranos, you were probably checking out Sex in the City as well. It was just as big a cultural moment as The Sopranos in a lot of ways.
And like something like a Friends, even if you've never seen an episode, bits, right? Because like they just got brought up all the time. So yeah.
But everything I know about Charlotte, and specifically Charlotte's husband, like that type of questioning or like assertiveness into who you are that their child has on display, really also talks to the insecurities that exist with both Charlotte and her husband. Because the whole bit about Charlotte's husband is she thought that he was just her gay best friend for a series before she realized that he wasn't gay and they started dating. So like it's continuing that type of storytelling that has always sort of been the Charlotte part of Sex and the City. And it's really interesting. And I mean, it's just something that I never would have thought of, because I mean, I have friends and I know people who have, you know, come out as non-binary or are now trans and all of that. So I know it from my point of view, and I kind of have an idea from their point of view, though I would never speak for them. But to see it from like this third point of view, and again on like a television show, it feels very progressive. But
Well, and more importantly, with a show with a character that is pop culturally like you know, in the upper echelon, shall we say, right? Like you're talking about Sex and the City, you're talking about like Miranda and Carrie and all these like these characters that like they sell T-shirts at Hot Topic still with their faces on them, right? Like so to have that character involved in the conversation is an important part to that equation as well.
Right. Because the people who are watching, I don't know, but it just seems that same way, because as much as it's interesting to see that explored, Dale watched the episode with me, and for her, everything that Charlotte says, I can't think of his name, and I feel bad about that, were saying, she's like, well, they're just the fucking worst. They're not even trying and all of this. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. If you don't understand, like, the history that she's had with her own insecurities about being the person she wants to be, and then, like, the main storyline for her husband, right? But it's really staying true to their characters in this way that might be detrimental to the conversation in 2022, but is also, there are people who are going to act like that. And maybe seeing that on TV is also something that we should highlight, that not everybody is going to be hyper supportive of that. And it sucks, but like it's a reality. Does that make sense?
I mean, it's almost like as if the show, while maybe often controversial and not always with the best takes on matters, still deserves a watch because of the nuance.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend any of the shit that they do on either of these shows, because again, I'm not like some hyper fan. I don't feel responsible for their, you know, I've never spent a dime in any way that I think has gone towards Sex and the City. Like I'm pretty sure even when the movies came out, I ended up getting like dragged to them and somebody else paid for me, because like I just don't have that. I don't have that connection to this franchise. But with even with that in mind, I can still admit that like there's definitely some important things that this show and its predecessor have done that like make it still worth existing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement. I don't know. It's but then I always wonder, the issue that I then have is, am I injecting the nuance with my experiences and everything that I know, or does that nuance exist in the creator's mind, right?
Well, and that's when you start that's when things like criticism and like like written criticism and going to podcasts and all this sort of stuff, that's why that stuff becomes part of the conversation, and an important part is because then you can kind of educate yourself on how other people's maybe somewhat are seeing it, right? So like I couldn't tell you that, but you'd have to go and look and see what some other people are saying about that conversation, considering the ways in which they reacted to the way to that some of the other stuff has been handled that we've talked about today. I can't promise you that you aren't.
Yeah, and I think that's really where that question on my side comes from, is like, well, everybody's just hyper reaction to that, but then watching it, it was kind of a nice moment for Miranda. Like it was that nice moment for Miranda to like find happiness again. But then also, as somebody who's seen everything Sex and the City related, she kind of felt like a hypocrite, because Steve cheated on her in the first Sex and the City movie and she lost her fucking mind. But now she's cheating on Steve because they're still together, and I don't know if there's ever going to be a conversation addressing that. And I don't know. It's weird. It's something that I didn't think I had this much Sex in the City in the archives, and then watching the one episode, I'm like, wow, I really do know a lot about these people.
Yeah.
And it works.
Like you said, it was hard to avoid.
Yeah. And the last thing is that it still works. Just like the iCarly reboot, without Sam, both of the shows still work and feel like what came beforehand. iCarly's a little weird because they tried to age up, because the people who watched it are now like 15 to 18 years older. So they'll say things like shit, or like, I'm gonna go to bed with them, which feels weird when you think, oh, you were just a little girl on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
but
People grow up.
people do grow up.
It is definitely weird, but like this, it's. I have
part
to
of
say
life.
I've actually been very I've been very intrigued by how far they're willing to go on some bits with iCarly. As somebody that doesn't watch the show religiously, some conversations that I have seen popped up about exactly this, I've been very impressed.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm happy that so much of entertainment, especially in the COVID generation that we're currently a part of, has been revisits for the sake of nostalgia. And
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to see that while it could just be a mindless cash grab with it, that some of them are still putting the care in. Not just for like iCarly and Sex and the City, which are direct continuations, but also to tie it all together to the beginning, something like Walker, which, is taking this no rules fucking cowboy and actually giving him consequences for acting like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's the important thing to remember is like as much as even I am guilty of using the term cancel culture very often, we have to remember that 90% of what we see labeled as quote unquote cancel culture in the world, and anytime somebody talks about something going too far or being too woke, like we're just talking about consequences all around. All anybody has ever asked is that we show in this stuff, not that this stuff be completely removed, but that consequences be shown for these actions. Because sometimes it is funny to watch somebody act like an asshole, but you know what's even funnier is to then watch them get their comeuppance.
Yes, sir. And to close the book on the Sex and the City and Just Like That conversation, the only real problem I had with it is that Miranda is constantly calling stand-up gigs comedy concerts.
It feels like that must be a bit, right? Like they know what they're doing. They don't think
Like,
that's what they're actually
because
called, right?
she's so square that she's not going to a stand-up show. She's attending a comedy concert. It's like what Frasier would call going to see, I don't know, Dave Chappelle. Can you imagine that? Frasier's getting a reboot. I want Frasier and Niles to wind up at a Dave Chappelle show.
Oh, man.
Thinking that they got tickets to like, oh, Chappelle, there must be a spelling error. We're going to see the great author. And then Frasier Crane's acting all street. We'll call it Frasier Says the N-Word. And it'll...
Bullworth?
What?
What?
All right, cool. Hoisted on my own petard by that one. Nice, Sajin. No, I don't. I mean, if any of them were... I mean, I think they did an episode where Niles became street before. God, Frasier's a weird show that I'm happy I revisited and am kind of happy to see what comes from the reboot continuation of that one. But I don't know. I mean, his son's got to be a big part of it, right? Don't you? You make Frasier Martin and you make... what the hell's his kid's name? Frederick Frasier. I don't know. I don't know what you do. I'm excited. TV's so good right now. And that's why we should probably pivot to something else. Just quick. I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I recommend it. That's what I'm going to say. I was given a copy of it on my birthday. And that's what I watched on my birthday. Because I figured, let's rip off the Band-Aid. And while I still feel there were some exploitive parts, overall, I think I recommend people check it out. There's my 2 cents on Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Cool.
Also, I think I can't think of anything else that we did crazy like that. Like, we talked about Being the Ricardos and Don't Look Up. There hasn't really been anything else like that come out that's probably going to be Oscar discussion-y, right? I want to watch Sing 2, but it's a $25 rental, and that seems crazy to me.
No, I am very much in support of that movie, and I think that it would even be worth that money. But I think that it's going to become one of those things that we're going to have to discuss because, again, I am very convinced that we are going to see a move back towards like at-home releases. It might be more of a settle in the middle type of situation, but there's definitely going to be a move back towards at-home releases. And it's not just because of Omicron, but also because of the idea that like I think some people are going to realize maybe this movie would have done better if we just sent it home to people, and that's going to become part of the math. And it's going to be a heavier weighted part of the math because I think it was already kind of in the water, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, and to that point, the idea that I don't know if it's worth this money is gonna be the new, like, I don't know if I really want to see this in theaters. Like, don't push yourself to see it in theaters. Don't push yourself to spend $30 on it. Wait until it's a more reasonable price and pay what you want for it. Because if you spend $30 on it and they spend the whole time thinking, I don't know if this is worth $30, you're not watching the movie.
True.
Right?
That's very true.
Right.
I guess, I mean, that's why I haven't pulled the trigger on it. I don't love that it's just a rental for that price, because something like Ghostbusters, which came out like 2 weeks before Sing 2 released, that's $20 to rent or buy. Sing 2 seems like the first experiment in this whole release in theaters and then get it out to people digitally as quickly as possible market. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out, is will people pay that $25 to rent it when they could also go see it in theaters still for less?
I mean, that's like very first movie of the pandemic was Trolls 2, and it did that. Trolls World Tour, and we spent the money to just rent it. But you know, since then things have definitely changed. We've seen a lot more of the benefits of the purchase at home and all that too. But yeah, we'll see. Like, I Sing 2, if it is the first in any grand experiment, it was a bad choice, because as much as I love Sing, like legitimately love that
Sing.
movie,
So
and again, Sing 2, like, definitely I holds a candle in my heart. Like, it's not the franchise that you test something like that on. You know, if we were talking about Despicable Me 5 or whatever one we're on now, like, I might be with you, but Sing is not the one I think that Illumination should have tested this on.
Yeah, I don't. It just seems so strange on so many different levels.
I just think it's happening more than you realize. I think the whole rental thing is what it is. It's not that strange to me.
Well, I think that's where it's feels strange to me because it's the first one where the rental is $25. I mean, that's not 100% true, because on Disney Plus they were $30 to have that early access. But something like Sing 2 is the first one that's like wide release early access, where the rental fee has gone from $20 to $25 with no option to buy. Because honestly, if I had the option to buy and it had also gone up $5, like $30, I might be more inclined to try it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what I really love about it, like, I still haven't seen Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I want to very badly, but it only can be rented, and that rental is $20. And I know that if I just hold out a little bit, and I've already held out because I wanted to see it in theaters, but it wasn't safe to do so, that is going to come. And when it does come, I will be okay either seeing it on HBO or paying a more reasonable price to either rent or own it.
Yeah.
Like $20 seems too much. And that's strange, because when I used to go to the movie theater, I'd pay like $10 to see a movie, and it'd be just that one-time experience. But now that, like, I wouldn't pay $20 to go to the cinema. I can tell you that right now. That's a bridge too far for me. But when I pay $20 and I can watch that movie as long as the license stays intact, it feels pretty good.
Right.
Like Ghostbusters for $20, and if I get a year out of it and I maybe watch it 2-3 more times, I'll feel like I got my money's worth for that payment. Yeah. But $25 for 48 hours to watch the movie as many times as I want, I don't think I'm going to put in the work to make it worth my while. I don't know, that's just me,
but
though.
They're going to make their money off of somebody that has 2 kids sitting at home and aren't allowed back in school right now, because with the rise in Omicron over the last couple of weeks, that is Utah.
Yeah.
And right.
So are you guys seeing the Texas? Did you see what's happening in Texas?
And Chicago and a couple of other areas where they're closed until the 17th. What are you talking about?
No. You remember that episode of The Simpsons where the teachers go on strike and people in the town become the substitute teachers? In places where schools are not shutting down, right? They are now asking for parents, or really any living bodies who can come in and be substitute teachers, because of the effects of Omicron and COVID on the teaching staff. And all I could think of, that's a paddling, because like The Simpsons did that. And also, Jeff Tate is the person I first tweet about it. They've only been back in school a week, a lot of these places, and it's already, we need the community to step up and teach these kids.
No, yeah, like I said, within the last like week, like things have gotten like out of hand on this side of the country. Like it has gotten crazy in the last like week and a half. Yeah, it's just been nuts.
And we're still like 2 weeks removed from seeing the true effect of something like New Year's Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what you're talking about, those are still the effects of Christmas, right?
Yep.
So, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'd like to talk about value for a second, building off of my rental thing. Sejin, have I told you that I'm amongst the chosen?
Okay, all right. Suddenly, this became a Scientology podcast. We're about to strap everybody down and ask them a bunch of questions while we electrocute them.
No, I'm one of
Gotta
the...
get those thetans moving.
Let's not talk about Scientology. I know we're a show about everything, but like we can get around the fact that I don't wear the legally required pork pie hat to record the podcast. I don't know if we're ready and equipped to fight Scientology right now.
Well, since they are the ones that make the pork pie rule, obviously we need to be careful around.
Oh, cool! That I've been a rebel this whole time, giving a middle finger to Scientology. Take that, Tom Cruise. Take that, John Travolta. Take that, Leia Remini 20 years ago. But now you're cool 10 years ago.
Yeah, any podcaster out there worth their salt is in Scientology. By the way, Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, like all of them.
Woo! We really are the show about everything, and I love it. No. I'm amongst one of the chosen people who was able to buy the Taco Lovers Pass at Taco Bell.
I'm sorry, did they limit that? I was under the impression that was just a thing that you could do.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's a thing that you can do. I felt like I was amongst the chosen when I got the email saying, "Would you like to become a taco lover with Taco Bell?"
Yeah. They showed up at your door like a la like Taylor Swift style, and people think I'm joking about this, showing up with like a silver platter and being like, "You've been cordially invited to hang out and eat tacos."
Yeah, no, that's what it felt like. I mean, that's why you does that. I know she does it. And that'd be cool if it happened. No, like it's cool. This Taco Lover Pass. I thought let's try it out. Right, $10, and I can get 30 tacos in the next 30 days. If I go to Taco Bell every day.
Yeah. So I've been reading about some of the math on this for some people, and there's been some weird shit going around. Somebody pointed out rather coolly, like I think is a cool idea. It's like this would be a great way to like help out like a local like homeless person that you see on a regular basis, or like if you see one of those like families on the side of the road that's struggling. Like I mean, it's not the best thing that you could buy them, but like get them some water, some toilet paper, and get them a taco pass so that they can at least eat for the next month.
Well, they
they
need a cell phone to do it. That's the thing. It's not
so
like
the taco
old
pass
passes.
needs to be on.
It's only you place your order for the free taco on the mobile app.
Oh my god, this is the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah, no, it's
why? What is it with the mobile app? Can somebody explain to me why Taco Bell thinks the mobile app is the way of the future? Because you still need to go to their physical store to pick it up.
Yeah, but I don't know. I like the mobile app. But the reason why is it allows them to collect data, which they can then sell so that they're making money on you coming and going.
There it is.
That's why everybody, the mobile app and mobile ordering, right? There is a sinister dark side to it. And that is the fact that it is collecting data on you that can then be sold to advertisers. That's just the fact of the matter.
And I think that people, when they hear a phrase like that, they think like, oh, they're coming for your social security number. Like, no, it really is just your Taco Bell order. But what they're doing is they're knowing every time you order from them, how often you buy Baja Blast, how often you buy tacos, how often you ask for hot sauce and don't ask for hot sauce. And those things sound like innocuous, and they may be. You have to do that risk assessment for yourself. But when you have a company like, say, Facebook, that is the one that's probably buying this minor data off of these websites, or perhaps hosting a lot of these websites, because Facebook does that. And then like they will be say, hey, yeah, Taco Bell, like we'll host your site. You just let us do the data collection for it. And then suddenly Facebook is not just seeing your order from Taco Bell every day. It's also, hey, that last time you bought jewelry, what you spent on for Christmas, the ads that you clicked on to check on for like around your birthday. Like, so then they can start to piece together, using a lot of circumstantial evidence, they can piece together a profile that is pretty damn close to you, right? And I think that like it's really interesting because I've been listening, like this has been a huge topic of conversation for years now, is data collection. But within the last couple of years, it is like it is a nonstop conversation around the whole like mobile ordering and everything that we're doing, and work from home, and the idea that like now the company has a computer in my house that they have full control over and can turn the camera on at any time, which is maybe possible. I don't know, but that's what a lot of people at my job think. But anyway, like there's all of this stuff, all of these conversations going on, and I think what gets lost in that is the truth of exactly what's happening. And then in that is not meant to alleviate or say like, oh, that's fine, the companies aren't getting that much information. It's even scarier. The fact that they're able to collect so much circumstantial evidence on your life that you think is innocuous, that they can then basically recreate you in a digital form, is horrifying.
And welcome to the metaverse. That whole thing, the virtual Walmart. Who's gonna shop like that? Who is gonna shop like that? How does that make things easier?
What's funny about that is anybody worth their salt that uses that like, they're going to do what they do at regular Walmarts now, which is walk through the virtual Walmart, go up to a thing, and then steal the UPC code off of it, and then go search another website to buy it at a better deal.
Yup.
So it's not going to make me buy anything from Walmart any more than it currently walking into a Walmart does. Like 9 times out of 10, I go into a Walmart and I'm either there for a Walmart specific product or to just see what Walmart's offering on something so that I can get a good baseline on what's a good deal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Here's the other thing. Walmart can barely run their current website. Their current website is a goddamn trash fire. You and I, right now, could go to the Walmart website, type in the same exact search phrase, get the same exact results, but when you click on the third link down and I click on the third link down, which is the same item, right? We have both searched for Iron Man, Marvel Legends figure. We click on that item for the Marvel Legends Iron Man figure that we want, and then on my side, it will say out of stock, and on your side, it will say in stock.
Well, because the problem is that they've made it way too convoluted, because it's not just searching through like stock in the area. It's like stock at the local store, it's stock at the local warehouse, it's stock on this side of the country versus stock on that side of the country. And so it makes it impossible to do anything like this where you're doing anything from a distance. So you're limiting kind of my shopping experience to really just what's available to specifically around me, which is the store that's 10 minutes down the road, guys. And at this point, like, I am not going into stores, so that's maybe good, but God, I hope this isn't going to be the case forever. So once things get back to normal, like, which the implementing something like a virtual store or their website is under ideal conditions, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it becomes useless because basically I'm only just walking around my store without walking around my store.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I'm talking like, yeah, you and me, weird example, because you're West Coast, I'm East Coast, and as you experienced with Golf with Friends yesterday, that's probably 2 different server farms. But I'm talking in this same house, same internet connection, the same exact scenario. And for me, something will be in stock and can be shipped to me. But for my mother, it will say out of stock, in store and for shipping. And like, that doesn't make sense. Like, the website doesn't know how to communicate all of the data that it's getting. And you want to add a fucking video game UI over that?
Walmart's online experience is maybe a step above the we didn't even want to have a website attitude that was going on. Like, that is all but gone, because nowadays you can't survive without one, right? But remember, like, there was like the period where like Toys R Us like refused to get one or something like that, and then it became we have a Facebook page thing, and then a bunch of people realized, well, maybe that's not enough, because sometimes you need to control your own shit, and not letting Facebook run every aspect of your business in the virtual space is probably for the best. So now people are like, all right, we have a website that we run. We pay one guy who's running 10 websites. He's being paid by 9 other companies to also run ours. And he checks in on it once a month just to make sure it's not broken. That's essentially all you're getting for web service.
Yeah. It's awful. It's nuts. But they're trying to sell me on a virtual metaverse experience where there's no mild or hot sauce on the shelf because the last time I went to Taco Bell, I got 4 packets of fire. So that's what he wants to buy. Why would he want mild or spicy? Let's also offer Diablo, right? In case he wants to go a little bit hotter.
Or like as you're walking down the aisles, like the end cap and like mid aisle like sales items that you're seeing are going to be different than what I would see if I walk down through that virtual store, right? Or if I walk into the movie section, the movie posters that are up for like the new releases are probably going to be different for me than they are for you. Or worse, it'll be the same movies, but it'll be Netflix style and there'll be different covers on them.
Oh man, I bought American Pie 9 and I thought it was going to be like a heartfelt romp. But it turns out that it was like a hardcore BDSM sex montage. And you're like, well, didn't you see the poster? And then you show me your poster, and I'm like, that's not what my poster was. My poster was 4 smiling girls. Your poster is whips and chains and a guy in a gimp suit. We were sold different movies, Sejan. We were sold different movies.
I got the Spike Lee movie because Adam Driver appears to be the main character.
Fantastic. Like 10 points to Siegendor for that one. All credit to that one. Woo! Yeah, no, it's weird. But the Taco Lover Pass, I tried it. I wanted to see what it is. And then we got smacked with a snowstorm that, like, it wasn't anything too crazy, right? I feel like we should probably talk about people stuck in traffic for 20 hours, 2 hours outside of our nation's capital, and what that projects to the world. That's not what happened in Rhode Island. What happened in Rhode Island was heavy snowfall, but the snow itself was relatively light, right? One weather service said that it wasn't going to be back-breaking shoveling, and a lot of people gave them crap for saying that. Like, what do you mean it's not going to be back-breaking shoveling? 8 to 10 inches? And he's like, no, I just mean that it's not going to be like the heavy cement snow.
The heavy wet snow that you normally get in New England, right?
Like, this snow is light and airy and will move without much issue. And that's what it was, but it's inconvenient when it's falling. I mean, that type of snow, the lighter snow, is really bad for visibility. So, like, people weren't going anywhere. We had the issue where, like, everybody was having French toast parties. I actually fucking hate that joke, and I'm sorry that I made it. But I heard it on 3 different radio stations. I'm all for French toast parties because you got to buy bread and milk. And, like, I don't like that joke, and I'm sorry that I made it. But, like, yeah, people panic by that. And we panic by it because it was a learned condition because of the blizzard of 1978. Which is how you have to refer to the blizzard now. The blizzard of 78 doesn't make sense as deep into the 2000s as we now are.
I don't know. 1978 just sounds made up.
Blizzard? I don't even think Dairy Queen was open. I hate myself. I understand that when I say things like that, it comes from a place of hating myself. It's just so I missed out on a couple of my free tacos is what I'm saying. And there's no payback for that. Also, every time I've gotten a free taco, I've asked for it without lettuce and it's come with lettuce.
Oh. Well, so I have, like, this is an actual concern. What happens if your Taco Bell, like, closes because nobody's working there?
So
do you get your money back?
It's not tied to a location, it's tied to an account. So I could go to any Taco Bell with my Taco Lover Pass and get it. So as long as the Taco Bell is open. But then it also says participating locations only. So if every participating location closes, I guess I'm out of luck.
If every location goes, hey, we're out of beef, because apparently that's a common problem now at Taco Bells, then, like, you can't get a taco anywhere.
Well, they do the soft potato taco as well. But they're running out of potatoes faster than they're running out of beef. So I don't know. Like, there are legitimate concerns that because of shortages, right? There are supply shortages still going on. Supply shortages that were going on before Christmas that are now mitigated and made worse by the Omicron variant. So, yeah, it's just something I wanted to do. Because, like, I was never going to be able to say I'm one of the Olive Garden pass peoples because I'm not a fan of Olive Garden.
Well, and those were limited, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they only give out like 100 of those like in an area a year or something like
Yeah,
that?
and then they stopped it because that one guy like was able to eat every meal there, but like not by eating every meal there, but just like the way that he used it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's a fun article if you want to look at why the unlimited pasta pass has been discontinued.
Well, what's really dumb about the unlimited pasta pass, and part of the reason why there's so many stupid limitations on the Taco Bell thing that they're doing, is because this has been a thing throughout history in this country with business, where they will offer a thing like this and then realize that there's some that they didn't think somebody'd be willing to take advantage of it. Duh. Like remember after 9/11, maybe it was even a little bit later, like 10 or 12 years later, when all of those people in the 70s and 80s who had like gotten or been rewarded like lifetime Delta tickets or something like that, and all of those airlines started like just rescinding on all of them. They realized that at that point, like they basically, when they were all getting bailed out, they were just like, we could just negate all of this stuff. And like, yeah, it was only like 200 or 300 people, but like 200 or 300 people that as a business they had promised this is a lifetime thing for you. It is like most of them had gotten it because of like retirement, so they were like literally like benefits that they had worked their whole job for, was the ability to say that now I have Delta tickets to anywhere in the world my entire life. And then like Delta was just like, nah, and like and that became like a thing, to the point where like there was questions about being brought to court and stuff over it, right? And so now what that leads to is shit like this, where it's like, hey, yeah, we've got a taco pass, but it's only good for this, and it's only good under these conditions, and it's only good if we say it's good.
Yeah, it's you know what I think of, and this is a little bit closer to home, but you know that's empirical evidence, which is always nice. Chili cook-offs. Did you ever come with me to a chili cook-off? Were you ever part of that lifetime?
I've never had the pleasure of being to a chili cook-off, and it is one of my greatest. It's on my bucket list.
Well, we will. Well, I don't know how things are going to happen in the post-COVID world, but I'd love to get to one with you. But the Deckers, that was a thing that was a yearly tradition, was to go cook in chili cook-offs. And part of the reason was when they were starting off, the ICS, the International Chili Society, sold lifetime memberships. And as part of the lifetime membership, you got free entry into a local regional competition, right? And that was rescinded in 2005, where like now you have to pay to compete. And no, you don't get any sort of discount for being an ICS member or anything like that. It's just that thing that you paid for when we were first starting off and we needed money to get off the ground. Like that just means nothing now. Mm-hmm. So my mother hasn't cooked chili since, I think the last time we competed was 2009, because they tried to do one in Rhode Island again, because there was never really a true chili cook-off in Rhode Island. We had gone to one in Newport. I actually booked the band that played it, because the first chili cook-off I ever went to, the Red Hot Chili Peppers were there, which is just a weird thing that's part of my life. So when they're doing it, I'm like, you guys should get a band. And I booked for a couple of bands. So I booked a band to play the chili cook-off at this VFW hall, which was weird because like chili cook-offs are supposed to be fun outdoor activities, walking around eating frickin' chili. That's not really good inside a building because of what chili does to the digestive system of most, nay, all people. And we went, and it cost money to participate, which was this kind of a bummer, right? Because my mother paid for her chili society membership, which was supposed to cover that in perpetuity, and it doesn't. But then also, like, the people who were judging clearly had never judged a chili cook-off before. Mm-hmm. And the critique about my mother's chili was too much chocolate. Do you know how much chocolate my mother puts into her chili, CJ?
Any?
None.
Yeah, I like chocolate in chili, but I know it's not like a common. Like I guess that's not fair. I know it's not something everybody does. I'll put it that way.
Right. It's actually a very common ingredient because it makes it richer, and it brings out the flavor of the spices, having the
It
chocolate
also
base.
Yeah, it takes time off the. It also takes time off the cook because a lot of that stuff that you're talking about is stuff you could also get by cooking your chili for like 8 hours, or
Right.
you can add some dark chocolate and suddenly you can get a lot of those benefits really fast.
Yeah. But no, and that was just like, we're not going to be competing in this anymore because you guys don't understand chili at all. You just think, oh, it's really rich in flavor. She must have put too much chocolate in it. Or no, like,
Yeah,
it just weird sort of stuff that happens from it. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and that's, you want to look at America and you want to look at the problem of America, like broken down into at least one of them, because there's many and we don't have enough time on this show that's supposed to be that's definitely about everything, but supposed to be like a little bit lighthearted and not sort of doom boxy.
no, but the rescinding of ICS chili passes is definitely one of the worst things in this country right now.
The rescinding of reliability and lifetime from products in America is something that we've lost, because we realized that unless something is disposable, we can't continue to make money on it.
Oh
right?
yeah, man. I mean, have you heard any of the stuff going on with Game Jolt this last week?
No, what is that? I don't even know
So
what Game Jolt is.
so Game Jolt's like a website like Addicting Games or anything like that has been around for decades of just like people can make, simple games, put them up for free, they throw a bunch of ads on them and stuff like that, but you can keep playing them. So just basically just browser games, right? But Game Jolt has gotten really big over the last few years, like a lot of them have. Like some of them, a lot of those kinds of places have gotten so big that they've become like part of other programs. It's like where like Pop Games started on a lot of these and things like that. And so anyway, so they've gotten so big that they've decided to start instituting some rules and about what kind of games they're going to allow. And essentially, we're getting rid of a lot of adult content. It was the aim. The problem was that their way of going about it was like not quite like a surgeon and more like a fucking caveman. They just went through and just like anything that had any type of tag associated with it just got kind of wrecked. And they claimed that it was something that the fans, what's the word I'm looking for, the audience like asked them to do in order to clean up, because they were getting a lot more families. And a lot of those types of sites have really leaned towards things like your Neopets, like recreators and things like that. And so in their effort to kind of clean their act up, like they just got rid of a ton of stuff that had things to do with like, not just nudity or violence, but also things like depression and like any games out there that were dealing with quote unquote adult situations. So like a lot of just like dating simulators that have, for a lot of people were places where they were getting recognized for early work so that they could get other jobs, like, and that kind of thing. But essentially what they did is the same thing that OnlyFans did, is the same thing that now everybody's really worried about, because I don't know if you heard the news just today, but it was announced that Reddit is looking into going public by April if possible. And so if they go public as a company, that means that they are probably going to do the same thing that all of these other companies like Game Jolt and like OnlyFans and like Tumblr and all of this when they go into this type of business mode. And that's, they try and hide all the dark shit. And so it's kind of this thing where it's kind of the same idea where like these websites, these areas where people felt that they were promised a certain level of content and freedom and creation that they'd have and ability to just kind of host the kind of things that they wanted to host. Like these sites, once they get to a certain point and they're not making money for the company anymore, or worse, the thing with the Game Jolt stuff, and Vice actually has a big write-up about this, is the idea that these are the kinds of things that do make a bunch of money for these companies, just enough for them to be able to then go public. And then at that point, they nix all of this material that they were depending on to carry them. Like look at OnlyFans, basically how they talked about how that website was just not going to exist if they didn't allow adult content on it anymore. And like they suddenly pull the rug out on all of these creators after all that time, and they're like, sorry, you're not welcome here anymore. We're now going to sell to a company and make $15 billion and golden parachute out. And yeah, the website won't exist in 4 years, but that's not our problem, Tumblr. There's just this idea that that this kind of space on the internet is kind of in the same realm of what you're talking about. This idea that they're just rescinding on this promise of like, this is a space for you to do this sort of thing. And people spend, their whole lives like basically focusing on this because they see it as a way to create careers, to create social lives, to create all of this stuff. And suddenly it's no longer there for them because the company wants to make some dosh.
Yeah, it's the same discussion. All I can think of whenever we need to eliminate the adult content is why Betamax failed. Because
Yeah.
Betamax was superior to VHS in terms of longevity and picture quality, but Sony said, we're not putting porn on it. You can't get porn on Betamax. That's a bumper sticker. Let's make that one. You can't get porn on Betamax. And everybody embraced VHS because everybody loves porn.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sony then learned their lesson 20 years later, right?
And that's why HD DVD failed.
Yep.
But that's because HD DVD was an inferior product to Sony, and Sony was like, plus on Blu-ray, check out these boobies. We almost called it Boob-Ray, but then we're like, that's a step too far.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember HD DVD being something that was like a Microsoft-based product, right? Because that's why it was on Xbox and all that, right?
They embraced it because
right, okay.
Sony was the proprietary holders of Blu-ray. Microsoft was like, well, we're not going to give them money for Blu-ray material. We want to embrace the other one because we don't want to, and it didn't work out. We know that, right?
Well, and so part of it was because Microsoft, being basically the big player that kind of like, ended up becoming one of the biggest supports for HD DVD, they were the ones, not the only ones, but they were a very large voice in the conversation of, we want to have control over content, essentially. And for a lot of people at the time, what we thought they meant was something like, oh, we'll only work with certain companies to be available on HD DVD, so like only Warner Brothers movies will be allowed in this format, or will be available in this format. And so like, sorry, fucking everybody else, like that's what we thought they meant. But actually now in retrospect, the realization that what they probably meant was stuff like they wanted to have control over like adult content and stuff, and not allowing it. And yep, sure enough, killed them.
Same issue. I mean, the other thing is the difference there was the fact that HD DVD, and the reason that it just died, it was not as big a quality jump as DVD to Blu-ray. Like it was definitely better, but it wasn't that same level. So Blu-ray was a superior format, but you add in that problem. I mean, Betamax was a superior format, but then they're like, no porn. Then everybody was okay with VHS. HD DVD, even if they had been okay with porn, I feel like people still would have migrated over to Blu-ray, and HD DVD would have been like that weird stoppage point before people realized, oh, I should be on Blu-ray.
I had a copy of The Importance of Being Earnest on a Laserdisc. I think that qualifies as porn on Laserdisc, right?
Yeah, definitely. Laserdisc definitely had porn. I think I own a copy of Little Man Tate, and that's one of Jodie Foster's sexiest portrayals. That's not true. Don't go looking for it. Also, Julia Roberts is not naked in Mystic Pizza. I know someone in college told you that she was. They were lying to you to fuck with you. And hopefully get you to watch what is just a delightful movie. I love Mystic Pizza.
It's all right. Mystic Pizza is a lot of white people sitting around talking about a lot of non-issues.
True. It doesn't mean that it can't be an enjoyable film at the time.
It was a very big genre at the time. I'm not going to argue with that. But
I mean, Mystic Pizza is essentially the Sex and the City of the 80s.
Oh God, it's the truest thing you've ever said.
Thank you. Look at what we can do on this show. All right, one last thing I want to talk about. I want to share a video game experience because I feel like I haven't been having very good ones recently, and I wanted to share a positive one that I had. And that is with a little indie darling that first released in 2016, came to Nintendo Switch in 2019, and this past week was on sale for $1.99. And there's a chance that if you're listening to this before noon, the day that it releases, January 10th, it might still be $1.99. But if not, it's only $5. Sejan has assured me it's only $5. And also, if you don't have a Switch, it's on Steam for $3.
The proprietor of this Nintendo store, assure you, it will only be $5, child.
No, it's made by a company called Retro Revolution. And the name of the game is Metagal, Metagal, which is probably why talking about Mystic Pizza and our own Metagal on the show, Julia Roberts, sparked the memory of my wonderful experience with it.
Ooh.
It is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a Mega Man clone. Like, you can't avoid the fact that it's trying to ape off the Mega Man games.
Yeah.
But it was a more enjoyable Mega Man experience for me than either Mighty Number 9 or Mega Man 11. I'm sorry. I just got to be honest. Mega Man 11 did not work for me in a lot of ways. And it's disappointing. I mean, I should probably give it another play sometime this year.
It didn't light the world on fire, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't love it, like, I don't think you were the only one. I have not heard anybody rip on it like Mighty Number 9 in the past, but yeah.
Mega Man 11, I will give it another try next season. That's something to look forward to, is Devin replays Mega Man 11. We'll have fun with that one. But Metagal is a game that a friend of mine brought to my attention and was like, have you ever checked this out? And it's $2. And so I threw down the money and I ended up playing it for 6 hours straight, because you got multiple characters. Each time when you beat the game, you unlock all the characters, it says. I have no proof of that. I beat the game as Metagal, and then there were 4 other characters unlocked, and that seems weird. It seems weird to have 4 other characters locked behind one playthrough of the game, but apparently this one does, by all accounts. I'm going to do some testing on it. But each of the characters plays so differently that it felt like 5 different experiences with this one game.
Cool.
In a way that, like, Shovel Knight actually built different experiences for each of its different characters, for better or for worse, is what I will say. I really liked when it was playing the same game as Plague Knight, but then when you got to, like, Spectre Knight and it was a weird prequel and the game mechanics and world kind of changed, it had lost a little bit of what I loved about Shovel Knight the first time. Ditto King Knight when it straight up just turned it into a Super Mario World hack. Come fight me. I'll have that discussion someday. Metagal, it is literally the same 8 levels, modified slightly based upon the powers that each of the 5 gals have. Metagal, Shield Gal, Dash Gal, Burst Gal, and Warp Gal. And it was just a blast. Like, as soon as I beat it as Metagal, I'm like, well, they said that there were other characters. Let me check it out. And I just proceeded to sit and beat it as all of the other gals.
Nice.
And it was a great experience. I haven't been, like, electrified by a game like that in a while. And I don't know, I mean, some of the level design, like, there's one level, Warp Gal's level, I think is garbage. I think that it's just, they put all of their hardest stuff into one level, and it really shows. Like, everything about that level is hard. And I don't love that part of that one thing. But one bad level, I know it can spoil the entire game. It doesn't really in this game, which was nice.
Cool. That's rad.
I don't know. Really good. I just want to check it out. It's affordable enough, and if you like Mega Man games, I think that you'll find something there to enjoy. But even if you don't like Mega Man games, I think that it's user friendly enough to not be hyper intimidating.
That's the intriguing part for me, is that if it's something that can give me a Mega Man experience as somebody that is not a Mega Man player, I am on board for that.
Yeah, I think it could. Especially, it has this really cool thing where you collect gears, and when you die, you can either use one of the gears to start from the last room that you entered, or you can continue, and that will take you back to the last checkpoint that you passed. So sometimes you get to, like, a room that's really difficult, and they'll give you a gear. Like, you can collect a gear at the very beginning of that room, knowing that it might take you a couple of tries to get through this level. But we don't want to be too punishing to you. It was nice. It was really good, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I haven't been able to say that in a while. Mostly it's been a lot of me being frustrated with Avengers lately. And I'm glad I was able to put aside that frustration for a while.
We had some fun yesterday playing some golf,
We did have fun playing golf with
playing some
friends.
hockey golf.
Yep. There's another thing. There's another little teaser for season 6 is we're gonna be playing more Xbox stuff because everybody has
We'll
Xbox now.
We'll see.
Why we'll see? What do you mean?
I mean, all I have is the cloud gaming experience, and it has not been mind blowing. So we'll see how long I stick with it.
I didn't realize.
It's not a bad experience. It's also just not worth it right now.
It's not better than Stadia. I will say that. I think that's something that I can say easily.
I agree with you. It is on the exact same level as Stadia. So anyone out there that has experienced either or, you now have a good idea
Yeah.
of what the other one is.
But what I would recommend is between the two, I think I'd have to give the baton to Game Pass because you have that library of games to play.
Maybe. I mean, on Google, I've got a pretty solid library.
Well, so do I, but that's only because I've been a member of Stadia for. Oh my God, has Stadia existed for 2 years, Sejan? Have I been a Stadia subscriber for 2 years? Have I given them $240?
I mean, look, man, like we said it early on that it was easily something that we could see ourselves sticking with, and I'm still there.
I love it.
I mean,
they just gave me some game that I was super excited to get. Darksiders 3.
Yeah,
like,
and what I will say to the library on the Xbox, because you pointed out that you do get a big library right away, is that's great. I still only am interested in about 2 or 3 of those games.
I guess I think what works for me about the Xbox Game Pass and that library is it's a lot of games that I was always like interested in but never played. Mm-hmm. So then like getting to see them as part of like I got that. I mean, to get the Game Pass Ultimate, it's like $5 more than getting the ability to play online with Xbox. So for $5 more a month, if I play one game to completion each month, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's enough games in that library where that would work for me. But
right.
For you.
For me, it's. I mean, I've done that. I mean, yes, one of them was River City's Girls a second time, but it was going through and getting every achievement, so it felt good, and it also was interesting to see how it played between PlayStation 4 and Xbox. Mm-hmm. Similar with something like Cyber Shadow. Hades, I would have never paid the money for Hades. It just seemed like too much of a gamble for me, but having it included in all of that stuff, it was something worthwhile, and now I'm a big fan of it. So
yeah, well, and we had a hell of an experience yesterday playing golf with friends, which we noticeably had a terrible experience trying to play online together on the Stadia. So like they definitely have a handle on that, and I will give them that over Stadia. Is that and it's because they are Microsoft, they are Xbox.
They kind of built it, yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but they have a handle on that online gaming thing. So lo and behold, so like I'm excited for that kind of stuff. I'm excited to have it to be able to play stuff, and so that might be the kind of thing that it becomes for me. Is maybe I don't have it all the time. Maybe I have my account set up and it's sitting there waiting, but maybe I don't renew it every month. But if you and I are suddenly in a position where you're just like, hey, I've got some time this weekend, would you want to jump on Game Pass? I'll pay the whatever it is, the monthly fee, and like get on with you for a couple of hours, get a month's worth of fun out of it, and then turn it off again. Because the joy of it being cloud-based is I don't have to download anything. I literally just bring up a browser, plug in my Stadia controller, and play. Like,
I mean, that's exactly where I was after playing yesterday. I will admit that, where like this was fun, but it's not something that I use all the time, right? Because the bloom has kind of gone off of Hades, and the other game that I was playing on there introduced like time mechanic stuff where if you take too long to do things, it'll change how the game works, and I'm not really a fan of that type of thing. I'm okay with that in like a new game plus, but on my first experience I want to just like be free to enjoy the game however I want to. I don't love time limits like that.
Yeah.
So I
still want to get together with like you guys though, and like I mean everybody. Like I want to get everybody together and start up like a grounded game or like a Stardew Farm or something.
And I would love to do that with you. I'd like to do that. What I'd like to do while it's available is It Takes Two with you, while neither one of us needs to install it. Because I'd like to try that. I'd also wouldn't mind trying a game of Halo Infinite if you and I can get on that together. Because Halo Infinite feels awesome. But at this point, we're kind of just making plans for what we're going to do next.
But that's what I mean. It's
yeah.
like there's definitely enjoyment to be had in it. I do think that there is something good there. I just think it's one of those things where it doesn't merit the monthly pull out of my pocketbook like say Stadia seems to, and things like that.
Agreed. I can see that, and it's where I got to yesterday. It's that I had fun, but I'm paying for this thing, and I'm not utilizing everything about it, which is
Right.
the thing that sort of sit a little heavy in my tummy. All right. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else you want to add? I mean, it's a finale episode, so if there's like big stuff or mysteries that we need to solve, now's the time to do it.
No, I don't know if there's anything too major. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of sitting on my hands waiting to see what's going to happen with things like movie theaters and restaurants and stuff out here. We're basically treating it like we're out in lockdown
Right.
again. So
I mean, so similar here. I mean, the furthest place that we go is to like get fast food, and even then, we got Taco Bell this weekend, and we're like, that's gonna be the last time. We're like, it's getting to the point where we shouldn't be risking it for this anymore.
exactly. Yeah, so we're just hanging out, watching a bunch of movies, playing some Rummy Cube, that sort of thing. Like,
Nice.
Yeah.
I purchased my new project for the year, but that won't be here till next week, hopefully. So that'll be another thing for season
It's
6.
not putting together the mega chair. What the hell?
No, the mega chair has to arrive first, but they're putting it together. I don't know what's going to happen with this chair. Chair Watch 2022, ladies and gentlemen, get into it. Oh, I signed up for Retro Battle too.
Nice.
As much as I was upset that Dr. Mario was my undoing, I had a lot of fun with it. And when the opportunity came to sign up for the sequel, so that's something that's coming in February. So as we get closer, we'll talk to it. But if you have any suggestions for me on like how to train, find us on social media. Because like if there are like games out there that I might not know about that you think, like Dr. Mario on Super Nintendo, which I was aware of but never really spent time with, anything like that, I'd like to hear about it. I really would. Siege?
Anything else, man?
No, I think that's it. So if you would like to share your stories of lockdown culture in an Omicron world, Siegen is out there. You can find him on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you can think of anything that we should all hit up on Game Pass, make sure you send some suggestions to Devin at Devin D. Decker.
Excellent. And until next time, Will, please bring us home. We'll see you next season. Bye, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.